Hello, I'm Debbie Buckson, the Executive Director of the Historic Odessa Foundation, and I am giving a little tour for the Decorative Arts Trust, which we are absolutely thrilled to do, to bring our beautiful Corbit-Sharp House to interested audiences is one of our major goals. And this is the Corbit House. It's the finest example of Georgian architecture in Delaware. It was begun in 1772 and completed in 1774 by William Corbit. William Corbit was a Quaker. He was a tanner by trade, and he was only 27 years old when he built this magnificent house. The Corbit House is often compared to the Samuel Powell House in Philadelphia and the Stampler Blackwell House. And it's just wonderful that we have it here in little old rural Odessa. The original Chinese lattice around the roof deck is spectacular, and the butyl block cornice molding is just beautiful. And you'll see that carried to the frontispiece on a smaller scale. We had a paint analysis done of the house a number of years ago, and the house was painted this wonderful color combination based on that scientific research. And the front door was grained, which kind of excited us and was, you know, a little unusual for what we've seen on other buildings here in town. Odessa was, in the 18th century, a port. It was a wheat shipping port, and they shipped 400,000 bushels of wheat out of the town in the 18th century. It is the shortest distance over land between the Delaware River and the Chesapeake Bay. So it was a pretty important agricultural trade route. It was a wonderful spot for William Corbit to make his fortune, which he did. He was probably the wealthiest man in town, next to his neighbor, David Wilson, who was running a close second. Shall we go in and have a look? It's the kind of house that just takes your breath away. And welcome to the Corbit-Sharp House. You'll notice in this center hall that butyl block molding is carried into the interior on a smaller scale. We have these wonderful broken pediments over the doorways, and it's just an architecturally breathtaking house. We also did a paint analysis a number of years ago on the interior, so the interior rooms are matched to their original color as far as modern technology can be counted upon. This year is the 250th anniversary of the Corbit House, and we do have a special exhibit going on right now in our period rooms that has labels on everything that belonged to members of the Corbit family. I'll be pointing out primarily the things that were in William Corbit's original collection, but there are many, many things in the house right now that are out for just specifically for this exhibit. We can start in the parlor. In this room, the 6 mahogany chairs along the far wall belong to William Corbit, and they're mentioned in the 1818 inventory. There are 3 with claw and ball feet and 3 with Marlborough legs. Now we know that 6 other chairs, 3 from each set, exist somewhere, and hopefully one day we may discover where the balance of that set of chairs is. We are very focused on making the Corbit House as real an interpretation to its period as we can. The card table also belonged to the Corbit family. It has that interesting pierce work that's a little unusual. There are not many of those exist with a pierced apron like that. The tea table belonged to William Corbit. It descends in his family. It is a Chester County tea table, and we believe that it descended from his mother, Mary Brinton Corbit. In fact, William Corbit was born in Chester County. His father moved back to the Odessa area when his father died, and he inherited farmland here. The sofa, also history of ownership in the Corbit family, as well as the little Pembroke table against the wall, which is made by John Janvier. I should mention too that the set of 6 chairs also was made by John Janvier. John Janvier is the local cabinet maker here in the 18th century, and he is Delaware's most prominent cabinet maker of the period. The tea service was a gift to William's son, William Fisher Corbit, and his wife, Rhoda Davis, and it was made in Philadelphia in 1812. That just recently came into the collection, has a wonderful little story with it. Our curator of exhibits was at a cocktail party and ran into a person who was a descendant of the Corbit family. And she said, "Oh, I have a tea service in my basement. Do you think you might be interested in having it?" And we said, "Oh, yeah." We can take a walk back into the master bedchamber. Again, this wonderful verdigris finish we discovered in our paint study of the house. And of course, this would have been very fashionable at the time that William Corbit built the house, and it would have required a professional painter. We know that William Corbit's architect was Robert May from the head of Elk, Maryland. And what's really fascinating about this house, we have so much documentation. We have an 1818 inventory, which was done at the time of William Corbit's death. We have William Corbit's business and building accounts for the house, as well as the architect's invoice. So, you know, the puzzle pieces just fit very neatly together for us. In this room, the chest against the far wall was made by John Janvier, and the top of the chest is a replacement board, but the balance of the chest is original. The base of the chest was added later, so that's a reproduction base that the chest is sitting on. What's very exciting about it is we believe we have located the base for it, which is a 4-drawer chest. And we haven't gotten it to Odessa yet to study it, but we hope to be able to do that at some point and see if the 2 pieces fit together properly. We believe what happened was it was inherited by 2 different members of the family. One person took the top and one person took the bottom. So we'll be excited to see if what we think is true and that they fit together. It also will be, I think, the only existing example of a chest on chest out of Janvier's cabinet making shop, which is really pretty interesting. The double back day bed also belonged to William Corbit. It was made by John Janvier. And the dressing table with Spanish feet also comes to us through the Corbit family. The wonderful thing about Odessa and its collection is the level and depth of provenance that we have. Our objects can tell such fascinating stories of these things. Oh, this is an interesting little detail over here, and I will bring it forward for you to see. This little tea kettle, teapot, comes to us through the Corbit family. But look at this really fascinating repair. Clearly the handle was broken. And I mean, this is just an interesting repair made from silver to add a handle to take care of this wonderful little teapot and have it descend through the family. And it's just fun. It's just one of the many, many, many fun objects that you can study at Odessa. Let's oh, I forgot this. This is interesting too. There's so much that it's just hard to keep it all straight. This is a wonderful little washstand, also made in the Janvier shop for the Corbit family, listed in the 1818 inventory. Let's take a walk upstairs. We're entering Daniel Corbit's room. Daniel is William's son and sort of the last man standing. He eventually inherits the house and business from his father. William Corbit was married 4 times, incidentally, and had 13 children. So it was a large, large family. For our special exhibit, you can see that we have things that were brought in specifically for the 250th anniversary exhibit. But I think one of the most interesting stories in this room are the pair of chests. They just recently have come into the collection, and the chest on my left, one of our supporters called me one day, and he told me, I just bought a little chest at an auction. And he said, it's got a little label on the back that says Corbit-Sharp House, 1772. Are you interested? And of course I said, how fast can you get it, dear? So the chest came down, and Philip Zimmerman also arrived quickly, and we began to take a look at it. And sure enough, it is a chest made by John Janvier in the Janvier shop, and it is the one listed in our 1818 inventory. And in looking at all the research that was done by John Sweeney of Winterthur, who wrote his thesis, Grandeur on the Aberquinimic, back in 1953, had done a fabulous job of laying the foundation for this collection and researching and photographing objects that family members still had in their possession at that time. So it allowed us to see who this chest had gone to help document it. And it also pointed out that it was one of a pair. So of course that begged the question, where's the other one? So we started looking and researching and going through the family and history of ownership that John had very carefully recorded. And one of the names jumped off the page at me. And I told Philip, I said, I think I'm going to make a phone call and see if this person knows where the other chest is. And so I did, and she answered the phone, and I asked her, and she said, oh yes, it's in my bedroom. And we were so excited. How fast can we come and see it? She said tomorrow morning. So we had arrived bright and early at her house, and a wonderful, wonderful person. And she'd watched a lot of Antiques Roadshow. So she was asking us questions, and are you going to take the drawers out? Are you going to turn it around? Are you going to look at the bottom? And of course we thought, okay, John photographed it, John Sweeney, and we know pretty much its story, but we decided to go ahead and take the drawers out and turn it upside down. And wow, on the bottom of the chest was inscribed in chalk, John Janvier, Cantwell's Bridge. It just doesn't get any better than that. It was such an exciting moment. We were jumping up and down. So now the pair is back together because, of course, she said, you must have it. And we were delighted. And, it's just another level of the stories that objects in Odessa tell. Another interesting thing for our furniture lovers, this is a William Savory desk. And I always like to show visitors this. All visitors don't get to see this, but you do. So here we go. That's a William Savory label, which is fun to see. And we have another Janvier chest behind us. And this is interesting as well, because this chest, which incidentally belongs to Winterthur and is on long-term loan to us, this chest has an invoice attached to the center top drawer from the Janvier shop. And these are just a few of the stories that we have. There's so many more to tell. We're going to be passing through the long room, which is what the family referred to this second floor drawing room as. This room is very much in the style of a Philadelphia townhouse. But it is the only room in the house that is furnished as H. Rodney Sharp had it furnished. H. Rodney Sharp is generally credited with the first efforts of historic preservation in Odessa. He came to Odessa first as a young man and taught school in the old academy here in 1900. And then in 1903, he took a position in Wilmington with the DuPont Company. And 4 years later, he married the sister of Pierre Samuel DuPont. By the 1930s, he was a preservationist of some note, and a ladies group contacted him about restoring the Appoquinimink Friends meeting, and he agreed to do that. Down he came, and while he was here, he heard about the Corbit house being put up for sale by the Corbit family. And that's another interesting fact. This house remained in the Corbit family until 1938. Again, unheard of in a house to have remained in the same family for so long. So he buys the Corbit house and begins the restoration of the building. And incidentally, the restorer was from Media, Pennsylvania. His name was H.L. Lindsay, which is where, of course, the Decorative Arts Trust is located. So he restores the Corbit house, and before he's done, he restores 19 properties in the town of Odessa, which is likely the only reason that this wonderful town remains as well preserved and as one of the most pristine colonial townscapes in Delaware. This is his collection. He was, of course, a part of the colonial revival. But I also think one of the interesting things in this room is the pianoforte. And we can approach it and get a look at Charles Tall's Maker, Philadelphia, which I think is just a wonderful detail. And the piano dates 1774. The painting over the fireplace is attributed to William Williams and mounted on the paneling typical of what you would see in an English country house. But the architecture in here is just fabulous. It's so detailed. And every time you spend time in this room, you notice something else about this wonderful architecture. Very grand for Delaware and certainly for little old rural Odessa. Another interesting thing in this room is this pair of tables. These are two Philadelphia drop leaf banquet tables, but they are from the Lockerman house in Dover, Delaware. So these 18th century tables lived until not too many years ago in the Lockerman house in Dover. And they're just lovely, matched pair. Now we're stepping into two of William's granddaughters who eventually come to live with their Uncle Daniel, who is appointed their guardian. They were the daughters of Pennell Corbit, William's oldest son. Pennell and his wife both died rather young, and Daniel becomes their guardian. They come here to live in the house, and the paintings are interesting. This is Sarah Corbit, and you'll notice that she has a collar and a brooch on. And then in this painting, we have Mary Corbit, again with the collar and brooch. And that brooch is on the mantelpiece that both girls are wearing. It is a mourning brooch with the hair of both their mother and their father. And then on the chest of drawers, we have the collar that the girls are wearing. But it gets even better, because if you look at the far wall, on this side we have a sampler worked by Sarah Corbit, and on this side by Mary Corbit. These were done at the Smyrna boarding school where they went. This area of Delaware had some very remarkable craftsmen, the Janvier family being the most prominent, and their cabinet making shop was located here in Odessa through 2 generations. But in addition to that, there were other local cabinet making shops, including the Stevenson McDowell shop, which was located in Smyrna and Dover. And this chest of drawers, which belonged to Sarah Clark Corbit, you'll notice the terrapin escutcheon over the keyhole was made from that shop. And then here we have a card table out of the same shop, and you'll see the terrapin escutcheon. And we believe that that's the only known example of a card table from that shop. Let's take a walk back downstairs to the dining room. This wonderful portrait, incidentally, is part of H. Rodney Sharp's collection for the house. It is attributed to William Williams, Boy with Gun. And one of the wonderful things that we discovered when we were restoring the paint on this settee, these chairs, which have always lived in this hallway for many, many years, were painted inappropriately. They had been repainted sometime in the 1970s with an inappropriate color. So when we had the opportunity, we decided to have them repainted in an appropriate color. And one of the things that we discovered were these wonderful mahogany arms on this Philadelphia style settee. And you'll also notice the same mahogany arms on these 2 Windsor Bowback chairs, which was quite exciting. That was another one of those great discoveries that you just make accidentally. We're coming now into the dining room. This room is very rich with Odessa history and craftsmanship. This was the family parlor. We know that William Corbit was using this room as his office because his desk is located in this room. There is a desk listed in the 1818 inventory, which was the last inventory done at the time of Corbit's death. That desk was made in Odessa by John Janvier, and that desk belonged to William Corbit. The cartouche on the desk is a replacement. The chair in front of the desk also belonged to William Corbit. And the clock is Duncan Beard of Appoquinimink. Duncan Beard is a very prominent 18th century clockmaker who also was living and working here in Odessa. And the case of that clock was made by John Janvier. It's listed in the 1818 inventory and was specifically made for this room. It just doesn't get any better than that. That clock is on loan to us from Winter Museum. The table is also a William Corbit dining table and made by John Janvier, also signed on the bottom. Very exciting. We discovered that as well when we were beginning to take a hard look at cataloging the Odessa collection. The wallpaper in this room is a very fine hand-painted 18th century Chinese paper, but it was installed by H. Rodney Sharp. He found it in an English manor house and brought it to Odessa and installed it in this room. There are so many stories for us to tell. The pocketbooks on the little Pembroke belonged to William Corbit and Mary Pennell Corbit, his wife. In fact, Mary Pennell Corbit made both of those pocketbooks. We are so rich in the history of not just the Corbit house, but the craftsmanship of the region. And we hope that lots of people will come down to see these things up close and personal. We hope you'll visit us.